We are reaching you, like always, from our Enugu studios. And of course, Enugu is the capital of Southeast Nigeria and is also known as the Coal City State. Today, we focus on the development many Nigerians, especially people of the Southeast and South-South, are waited for over the years. The revival of the Eastern Rail Corridor. Rail transportation remains one of the most affordable and reliable means of movement for people and goods, not only in Nigeria, but even internationally. It's time you've been to all these, it's called a rail transport, holds a place for the people. A single rail movement can take over several thousands of people. You can put 200 cars that will not do what one coach would do. So, the rail transportation is very important in any country and in any economy. For decades, the Eastern Railway line connected cities, boosted trade, created jobs, and strengthened national unity. I recall one of my cousins would go to, he was schooling in Kaduna, and he bought a train from Enugu, and there was no fear of anything, and people would just quietly go to the rail station, board a train, and go to wherever he wanted to go. Sadly, this corridor has suffered years of neglect, vandalism, and poor investment. Of course, the conversation now is about its revival and generating hope among Nigerians, especially the Southeasterners and South. To help us understand the progress, challenges, economic importance, and the future of the Eastern Rail Line. This man is one. He's a fellow of the Institute, a member of the Chartered Institute of Transport Administration of Nigeria, a fellow of the Institute of Corporate Administration, a member of Nigerian Union of Journalists, and he has served Association of Heads of Federal Establishments, Enugu chapter. He is the acting chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, Enugu State chapter. But he is not here because of all this. He is here because he is the public relations officer or the Eastern District Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Railway Corporation. He's Onyekachi Stanley Onovo, PhD. Doc, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Chief.
It's a pleasure to have you.
My pleasure is mine too.
Yes, for our viewers, for a lot of people who are watching us online, they misunderstand what we corridor. What is it? And why is it important to the Southeasterners and to Nigeria?
Thank you very much. When you hear about the Eastern Railway Corridor, actually before now we just had two corridors in Nigeria. When you hear the Western Line and the Eastern Line, the Eastern Line starts from kilometer 1 in Port Harcourt through Aba, Umuahia, Enugu, Makurdi, Jos, up to Maiduguri. So when you hear the Eastern Line, that is the Eastern Line. And of course, the Western Line from Lagos up to Maiduguri also. So, but the Eastern Line, when people hear about Eastern Line, they are talking about the Eastern, or either Old Eastern Nigeria or Southeast. But even though our constraints in the Eastern District, which starts from kilometer 1 in Port Harcourt to about kilometer 51 or kilometer 60, which is somewhere after Igbede. That's the boundary between the Eastern District and the Northern District.
Okay. As a young man, and I'm sure you also got affected. Many Nigerians grew up hearing stories of active trends in the East. I had alluded to that in my introduction. And suddenly, we had a decline of the rail system. From your vantage position, what would you think led to this decline? Because before now, it was the hub of activities for Nigerians, and it was easy for people to hop into the train and go to wherever they wanted to go. There was no kidnapping, there was no insecurity, except if the train derails, which was rare those days. So, what would you say led to this decline of the rail system over the years?
Once again, I want to thank you. What a lot of people don't know is that railway operations, railway construction, everything that has to do with the railway activity is highly capital intensive. It's very expensive. And for any country, for any institution to successfully manage their railway operations, there has to be a consistent investment. Consistent investments that will never lead to any loss, based on what I know about railway operations. But over the years, the challenge of Nigeria had been consistency. Being regular with investments, being intentional about what you are doing in terms of railway development. So over the years, we had that challenge of committed investment. That was the challenge, if I may stop at what led to where we are today.
Okay. But of late, and currently, we are hearing about revival. And it gives a lot of people hope. So, what does revival in this context mean?
When you look at what is happening across the country, there is great concentration on the revival of train operations. We saw that commitment, especially from the administration of late President Muhammad Buhari, who constructed the Lagos-Ibadan Fresh Line, completed, operational now, completed the Abuja Kaduna, completed the Warri Etape, and actually flagged off the Kano Maradi rail line. And this Kano Maradi is nearing completion. It was the same administration that came and laid the foundation for the Eastern Corridor in Port Harcourt, I think in 2021 or 2022. That foundation was laid in Port Harcourt for the reconstruction, total reconstruction of the narrow gauge of the Eastern Corridor, that is from here to Maiduguri. And if I may go further, the administration handed over to the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And when in 2023 the president took over, the Minister for Transportation, while touring all the districts, all the institutions under him, visited Port Harcourt. I was part of the delegation. He was uncomfortable that after laying the foundation, the track rehabilitation or reconstruction couldn't cross about 1 or 2 kilometers for more than a year or close to 2 years. And he was visibly angry with the contractors, CCACC. And of course, the president was sworn in 2023 May. The minister came for that visit around September 2023. And then one more thing we have to know is that project is funded 85% China, 15% Nigeria. Nigeria had paid their counterpart funding of 15%. So the minister told the Chinese contractors that the 15% counterpart funding that Nigeria has already paid is capable of clearing beyond Aba. So why are you still in Port Harcourt? Not just in Port Harcourt, very short distance. And he gave a marching order in September and told them, if by December you don't clear to Aba, I'll cancel the contract. And by December, they cleared to Aba. Yes, they cleared to Aba, and we were excited. It's not just that they cleared to Aba, you could see the work. All the tracks were removed, new tracks were laid, the old sleepers were removed, concrete sleepers. If you are not informed about the difference between standard gauge and narrow gauge, when you see the Aba Port Harcourt line, you will think it's standard gauge. So it's a new track. So consolidation, like I've been saying, ran between January, February, March of 2024. And April 2024, the minister came and then flagged off the Aba Port Harcourt train services, which is running till date.
Oh, that's quite impressive. Yeah, but currently, as we speak, what is the level of work or progress on the Eastern Rail Corridor as we speak now?
For now, work has not resumed. But if you remembered I've said it on different platforms. Last year, the president visited Enugu in January or February. And during that visit, the Southeast leaders, collectively, one of the major requests they placed before the president was the reconstruction of the Eastern Corridor, especially between Aba, to extend the work already done to Aba, to extend it to Enugu. And those of us that monitored that visit saw that the president gave that commitment, that he inherited this project, that he's going to see what he will do. April last year, the new managing director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Dr. Khalid Okoyefa, a man who is well experienced in transport operations across the country, from head of the task force that decongested Apapa Wharf gridlock, was the secretary of Abuja Metro Train. He was the commissioner of transportation in Lagos. He knows a lot about transportation. So when the man took over, he also decided to tour the districts under him. I was with him, throughout the journey. We went to Port Harcourt. He boarded the train to Aba. We met with the governor of Abia State, who also requested, MD, please, let this track from Aba get to Enugu. When the MD also got to Enugu, we also had an audience with His Excellency, the governor of Enugu State. The governor of Enugu State requested, say, MD, let the track get to Enugu. In fact, the MD, jokingly said, Abia State governor said, let it get to Enugu. Enugu State governor said, yeah, let it get to Enugu. And he assured that the president is committed that this track will get to Enugu. That was in April last year. A lot of people were skeptical about the possibility of all those. And then in July last year, we heard about the Senate approving $21 billion loan for a lot of projects. And in that $21 billion loan, $3 billion was earmarked for the Eastern Corridor. I talked about Senator Victor Ume, seriously commending the federal government for including the Eastern Railway Corridor, alluding that to be the result of their, frequent calls for the completion of that section, that corridor. So what we're actually waiting for now is the day the flag off will happen. We are having, if you listen to what's been happening over the media, issues of loans and difficulties in accessing those loans, that may not be very, very, the procedures it's taking. I'm sure once everything is cleared, that flag off will happen. And I believe it's going to be resounding, and hopes will, rise again for the Eastern Corridor.
Okay, let me join the rest of Nigerians to latch on this hope, believing that it will come to fruition. But for now, is there a train service from Port Harcourt to Aba?
Yes. That train leaves Port Harcourt every blessed day, except Sundays and Mondays, which were set aside for maintenance. It leaves Port Harcourt 8 a.m., arrives Aba 10:15 a.m. Leaves Aba 3 p.m., arrives Port Harcourt 5:15 p.m. every blessed day. Except the train is about entering Aba station as we speak.
Okay, and that takes me to benefits. Between Aba and Port Harcourt, where this train is operational, in what ways would you say it has helped economic activities within that area? Because if we know what is happening, whether it's job generation, whether it's commercial activities and all that, now you can multiply that when it begins to get to Omahia, get to Enugu, and then perhaps to Makurdi or thereabouts. So, what are the commercial benefits that people are enjoying now between Aba and Port Harcourt?
As I'm having some goosebumps as you say this, because the advantages of that route can only be understood when you experience it. It's a short distance, 62 kilometers. But if you come to that route, you see how this train is jam-packed. If you see how this train is loaded, you can only ask yourself, why can't I made reference to when my MD visited. I told you that he rode on train to Aba. You know, started the train in Port Harcourt heading to Aba. There's a popular station called Concom in Port Harcourt.
Concom.
That station, and a few others do, but as we were approaching Concom, because the MD wanted to have the feel, he was moving from coach to coach, talking to passengers, what are your challenges, how well do you think, how better do you think we can, serve you. The conversation was very interesting. But as we were approaching that Concom, we pleaded with him, sir, you need to get back to your coach. He didn't understand it. So if you don't get back to your coach, sir, you may not be able to get back to your coach. So, after understanding what we were saying, he quickly moved. And as soon as he moved, the train stopped at Concom. He couldn't believe what he saw. The crowd was so much. It was so heavy. Like I said the other time, looking at MD, we saw the excitement. We saw, how do I do? What do I do? I said some in the other meeting that if it was possible for him to cut off his fingers and convert them into coaches, instantly he would have done that. Because you are looking at markets. You are looking at demands. Of course, the challenge, as far as I'm concerned, the challenge of funding is not helping you to, key into what you have. When you were talking, you made reference to India. Of course, India is seriously dependent on train operations. Revenue from train.
Yeah.
Train is Indians' oil.
Yeah.
Because the market is there. They have the population.
Even Pakistan.
Yes. Just like Ethiopian airline is generating a lot for Ethiopia.
Yes.
Transportation is the key. If the government can understand the value involved in this, whatever it will cost them, let them invest in the development of Nigerian Railway Corporation. So when I was talking about the crowd, the MD saw the crowd was so much. Now, would you talk about activities at all the stations? If you get to Aba station, it is a hub. As soon as our train lands in Aba, you see all these transporters. They leave the park, they come to station. Because people are going to Umuahia, people are going to Enugu, people that are proceeding to Makurdi, people are going to Ebonyi. They know, of course, the train is always cheaper. It's just 800 naira from Port Harcourt to Aba. And then 1,500 naira for first class, full air condition from Port Harcourt to Aba. Compare it to paying 3,250 between Port Harcourt and Aba. So they cut that journey, and then at the station, that market is created, a transportation hub, emergency one. As soon as the train is arriving, every day, you see the buses. Like I said, this thing can only be understood when you get there. The advantage is so much. The economic advantage is so much. And we are talking about passenger train services. The cocoa is the haulage of goods and services. But for now, the relief that our passengers are having once that train is. You see traders. In fact, one of the interviews the MD had, most of the people boarding this train are traders from Port Harcourt. They go to Aba, they buy everything, and then load on the wagon, the train, the baggage vans, and then go to Port Harcourt to sell. Of course, you know that Aba is an industrial area where you see all kinds of materials that are needed in Port Harcourt. So the economic, the social, the benefits cannot be quantified.
The benefits cannot be quantified. As you're just discussing, is it the coin? The Comcom
train station.
And I could imagine that. I recall one of the days I was in India, and I think we were moving from New Delhi to Mumbai. I was supposed to board the train. India has population. So even though my friends were made it easy for me to do a first class, but you see, even the first class, there are too many people again occupying the first class because and it was a seamless ride. And that takes me back to Norway. I was in Lillehammer. It's a literature city in Norway. It's about an hour drive by train, and maybe the speed train, not the normal train. So I recall as the JJC, I got there. I said I was scared. I couldn't speak Norwegian language, so I wanted the cheap way. I wanted the taxi, and I asked one guy. He just laughed. He just checked, and he discovered that that thing about $3,000. No, about $300. Yes, to go to the place. And he said no, 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 no. He looked at the bus and then took me to the train station. And we did everything, did all the mathematics, and I got it for 100. And I got into the train. I was trying to imagine the best airline in Nigeria. What the inside look like? And I looked to my left. I saw a well-stuffed refrigerator. You can use your coin and buy. No, nobody says to you. You take your coin, you go place your money, and then it opens. You pay, you collect whatever you want. Then Wi-Fi dropped. I got relaxed. I was in a reliable state, and I had a bell just next to me, and I was saying, "Is this comfort?" And that's how I got to Lillehammer. And then from Lillehammer, when I was done, so I could imagine. And in this place, the comfort. But in Nigeria, one thing that bothers us, and that is safety concerns. How safe is the movement from Port Harcourt to Aba, given the security challenges we have in Nigeria?
Port Harcourt to Aba route is very safe. We had issues of insecurities elsewhere, but I'll use Igbo to say this and explain. Ndị Igbo sị na ebe a na-agwa nwanne nwere nna okwu ka nwa nwe nna okwu ka nke na-enwero na-amụta. So while you are talking to a child who doesn't have parents, who has a parents, the one that doesn't have will be learning. So we didn't rest on our oars because nothing, sort of insecurity should have happened there so that we go and sleep. No. We learned from what has been happening, and there were security measures put in place. These are not the things we begin to discuss on air because it's been working for us. But beyond those, very professionally protected security arrangements, we have the Nigerian Police Force Railway Command, we have the NSCDC Railway Command, we also have the private security arrangements we put in place to ensure that the train movement between Aba and Port Harcourt, and by the grace of God, between Aba and Enugu, when it eventually comes to fruition, will be very safe for our passengers. We've not had any issues, and by the grace of God,
Oh, that's very good. Now let's talk about vandalism and track component thefts. These have been historical challenges in the past. I don't know about them. But what security architecture? Are you using local vigilantes, or are you using community partnership? Are you doing digital surveillance? What are you doing to protect the access of the railway corporation along this, so to speak, very busy Aba-Port Harcourt corridor?
Thank you very much once again for this issue. The issue of vandalism of railway track materials. You ask me, apart from funding of the operations, that is the greatest challenge facing the system. Just a few days ago, a factory was discovered by the Nigerian Securities and Civil Defense Corps, where they pack railway tracks and sleepers. They have equipment to compress them so you don't know what they were, and then they are shipped. I think about some persons were arrested, and investigations are ongoing. Issue of vandalism, let's also take it down. Even the Aba-Port Harcourt route that we are talking, that beautiful track, is still being vandalized. That's what we call the Pandro clips holding the rails on the sleepers. Vandals go to remove them, and if you remove them and train moves on them, the track will give way and there'll be derailment. One thing is, with the present administration in the Nigerian Railway Corporation, as soon as Dr. Kayode Okoye took over office, he redesignated what used to be known as scraps. When you hear scraps, today in the Nigerian Railway Corporation, that word scrap is a taboo.
They don't exist anymore.
They don't exist because he he said that railway materials are critical national assets. It doesn't matter how they look like, it doesn't matter. They are critical national assets that cannot be taken by anybody. I'd written a paper where I called for a legislation against the sale of railway materials on open markets. In fact, against the sale of scrap. These people picking scraps, and we say no, they are pilfering. They are not pilfering. They are the danger we are having in Nigeria today. A few days ago, between around Jos, if we talked about it, I would have sent the video to you so you play it. You saw a stretch of our track completely removed. So what are we doing?
You can still send it to us.
Okay, wait. What are we doing? The management, apart from that, these ones that I presented, initiated what we tagged community engagement, and we began to reach out to communities because these tracks are passing through communities, and that has been very helpful. Because I'll make reference with what happened between Aba and Port Harcourt. I can't remember that year actually, but our train, there was a particular station, Ogbe Station. They came to the district management and pleaded that they want this train to be stopping at Ogbe. They went as far as reconstructing the state train station, assuring us of security, built a house for rehabilitated our quarter for the officers that would be there. The management saw commitment and they approved that station, and the train started stopping there. I can't remember that year, but one Christmas, our train was departing at about 5 a.m. The train departed at about 5 a.m. Christmas period, 22 or 21st December, getting to Ogbe. We didn't know that vandals had removed the track. The train got there and derailed. Of course, our derailment team got to work, but the district management went to the community and told them, you have seen what happened. We emphasized the need for community to collaborate with railways to protect this track. Nobody will know railway track than communities. They told us to go and leave that one for them. A few days later, the community caught two vandals were caught vandalizing the track with their tools and everything. Let me not say they were caught because we saw cops, a dead person with his tools on the track. Of course, police came and evacuated the body and continued with the investigation. But I can tell you that from that day till now, you can drop your bag on track at Ogbe and go to Abuja, come back, you will still be there. Because the community is taking ownership. And that is what we are talking about across the federation. Despite the fact that these tracks are moving in thick bushes, these thick bushes, go and build a house there. The owner will come out.
Of course.
It is owned by somebody. Let us see these facilities as critical national assets and protect them. If you can't even nobody should risk their lives actually, but you can, give out information that will assist security agencies to do the needful.
This is quite.
Thank you.
This is quite commendable, and because you just answered my next question about the community participation, in safeguarding all these. But let's talk about encroachment of unauthorized structures and markets along the rail corridor. I don't know what will happen when you guys get close to Enugu, because I know in all the rail parts in Enugu, you see structures almost by, if not on the rail lines. So for the area that are functioning, what have been the challenges, and how far have you been able to sanitize these unauthorized structures along the rail lines?
The greatest challenge with human being is that it's also a governmental challenge, because the processes of releasing funds, processes of taking quick actions, we don't have them as fast as they should. And when you see people saying, what we hear about, the container here. You understand?
Yeah.
You see a container there, the next day you see small fence, the next day you see people continue. In between Port Harcourt and Aba, before we started that operations, of course there were demolitions. Any structure on the right of way went down. And the whole world knows, especially in Nigeria, we know that you don't do anything along the railway corridor. 15 meters from the center of the track on both sides, nothing happens there. Of course, depending on where the track is, whether it's on curve, whether it's on straight line, it varies. Anybody that is raising any structure on the right of way of the Nigerian Railway Corporation is taking a risk. Those buildings will go down. Unfortunately, because of the removal of the tracks from Port Harcourt to Igbede, people will come and tell you. In fact, somebody, when I shared this, somebody told me, which railway? Is there still railway? I laughed and I told him, there's still railway. So that is the impression that people have, and that is why I want to also commend Freedom Square TV, because this is the sensitization that is needed. People don't know that there is still railway. People don't know that the operations are going on. People don't know that the tracks will come back. You understand? The tracks were removed. They would say, railway has gone. Oh, they have removed everything. It's not coming back. You see your neighbor, he builds more structure. You tell him it is railway, don't remove it. Or you say stay there. 1 month he has collected rent. And he will tell you, wait, you can't build your own. You are building at your own risk. We have continued to mark, we have continued to tell them, but we know that once this reconstruction starts, all those structures are going flat down.
They should go flat down because that is, and when they begin to go down, they begin to cry.
People begin to cry. That government is wicked.
Yes, they want to say the MD is.
People are.
Okay, let's. There's one other one is something I know that had happened. The last was a car crossing around. This was wine a long time, and the train come crushing the car. And so that is what you call an illegal level crossing and unauthorized pedestrian crossings. What measures, if any, have been put in place to eliminate these illegal level crossing accidents and pedestrian crossings? Because people just run through the place.
I agree with you. This has been happening along the corridor. And we have our trackmen across the district. Once they notice any road construction, crossing of any type, they reach out to that community. It's just going the extra mile, because the standard approach is that before you do anything, railway track is called a permanent way material. Nigeria Railway Corporation was established in 1898. The Enugu Port Harcourt track was constructed between 1913 and 1916. So these tracks came before almost every other thing. You met them. So you want to cross on them. The standard approach is to write to Nigeria Railway Corporation. We want to do this, we want to do that. Railway will come and assess the type of road. Railway will give you the specifications of the things. Railway will advise you on how to, even those that are, mounting electric cables. We have what we call cradles that are serving as a barrier between the high tension cable and the rail line. You know that the rail line is an iron. It's a high conductor material. You can imagine if a high tension cable cuts and drops on the track. The track linking the whole from here to Maiduguri, for instance, the casualty will be crazy. So there are procedures, and we are, as people are, breaking these laws, we are moving to them and telling them this is the right thing. This is what you are supposed to do. As per people crossing and the accidents you made reference to, if you read the highway code in Nigeria, the Federal Road Safety Highway Code, what it says is, on approach to a level crossing, stop. Put off your engine. Look left. Look right. Confirm very well before you move. And in any casualty, these are the rules that will come to play. You understand? So, but you see people, and Igbo will say, no, you don't come The train will not wait for you. You wait for the train. I just saw a video, I think yesterday, of a switch tank in US. The guy saw train coming and he wanted to cross quick. And that was a good train. Container train. Double deck container train. All the containers were double, more than 20, more than 60 or 80 containers. Of course, the local didn't know that he jammed something. It was that he was blaring the horn. And as a matter of fact, you are at fault. Based on the knowledge of what I knew about railways, there could be some modernization. If railway jams you, you are in trouble. If train jams you, you are in trouble. If you jam the train, you are in trouble. As a matter of fact, the corpse will be confiscated by the Nigerian Railway Corporation until damages are paid for. Paid to Nigerian Railway Corporation.
For killing somebody.
They didn't kill you. You came into the track to distort the movement. You understand? There was an incident we had at experience at Holy Ghost. If you know that place that buses used to turn by our track.
I know.
A train was coming in. That was when we were running Port Harcourt Kano train. And that train will leave Port Harcourt 7 a.m. It gets to Enugu around 12 and proceed to Kano every Tuesday, and it will return every Thursday. This 608 wanted to do a U-turn at that level crossing. And according to the information, people were warning him, no, Oga, don't do this thing. People that are doing business there, they know. If you watch Chinese movie, you see people doing business on track. As soon as the train is coming, they know the time, they know the movement. So possibly the driver didn't know. He was trying to make that U-turn. Unfortunately, look at the train coming. And he was struggling. He was quite fast. But unfortunately, one man, out of fear, had to jump from that 608. And he jumped. Unfortunately, as he was landing, the driver succeeded in getting off.
And he was on the track.
He was on the track.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history, unfortunately. It was a very painful situation for us. But we continue to sensitize people through mediums like this to know that railway, yes, you may not have seen the tracks, but the tracks are coming back. If the tracks are not there, please don't do anything on the track. If the tracks are there, don't do anything on the track. These are permanent way materials. Whether you are seeing the track, you have known that the tracks were there. Know that they are coming back. The fears, I understand. The anxiety of our people, I understand. But a little more patience and the train whistles will do it.
Okay, we've got to run. Our time is running. Now, I'm talking about rolling stock, coaches, locomotives, and wagons. As the Eastern Line is getting up for launch, so what type of rolling stock? What kind of coaches are we expecting? The old type. What are we expecting to get? Because I just tell you my experience in Norway, Oslo. You asked me, I want to enter the train all over and all over again. It's such a beautiful experience, So what should we expect when it is fully launched? Given it from what you have from Port Harcourt to Aba, what changes from the old locomotive? That time we knew when it was coming. You're looking at, you just see thick black smoke. The train was coming. So what are we expecting?
Presently, actually, it is no longer the locomotive we have between Aba and Port Harcourt, yes, it may not be the type you met in Norway. It may not be the type we have at the start. It's 22 class loco, which was among those that were bought by Yar'Adua Jonathan. And that loco is a very sound loco. We have, like I told you, we have the economy class, we have the standard class. The first class coach is fully air conditioned. You may not have the fridge for you to slot in your stuff and buy, but it's quite conducive, and very, very nice, comparable to what you have in Lagos and Abuja Kaduna. By the way, I boarded the Abuja Kaduna train last month when I attended the annual meeting of Nigerian Institute of Public Relations in Kaduna. So it's the same comfort. But on the other coach, it's not the exact situation. It's not AC, but you have the fans, you have the lights, and it's cheaper. 800 naira. You may not have the same comfort. As per what we expect the best. When, of course, reconstructing of the track will take some time. I also know that taking delivery of these coaches will also take some time. I may not be able to know what is contained in what that 3 billion would do, whether it is for reconstruction of stations, whether it is for also for locomotive, also for coaches. But if you ask me, I think it's strictly on track. And I trust the MD and the management of Nigeria Railway Corporation. They are always proactive. And with the support of the federal government, the intention is that we'll have the best of the coaches.
Okay. Nigerian national corporations, whether it's when we had the Nigerian Airways or when we had we discovered there would be complaints about delays. Of course, you know what happens at the airports, our airport. Ticket racketeering, because Nigerian Federal Aviation Authority are trying to stop that. Poor customer services. They all play, they all over time have brought negative images to organizations. So, Nigerian Railway Corporation, how are they addressing complaints regarding delays? How often do they happen? Have you joined the airline that will say, we are sorry for the delay, but due to operational reasons, and you start for 3 hours, they just delay the movement. No compensation, no nothing. So, how are you guys handling this? Are there ticket racketeering in place and poor customer service? How do the customers respond to passengers? This kind of thing. These are much more things, but they're important.
Let's start with the last one when you're talking about poor customer service. Before the inception of the present administration of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, yes, we had public relations department, but there was no specific unit strictly addressing the issues of customers. So the current managing director established customer care unit.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, there are platforms along all our routes where the customers and the management are on the same platform. So whatever negative experience you see on the track, say it on the platform, and they are tackled instantly. You understand? So that's one of the transformations that Dr. Beifa brought in. That's with regards to customer service. And sorry for you if a customer complains about you. Sorry for you, even if you are right. Our customer, we treat them as the king. You understand? So as for customer service, the corporation is doing very well on that. And then when you're talking about delays, you have to also commend the Nigeria Railway Corporation. You talked about United, you talked about Airways, all these are gone. But we are still here and powering. So we talking about delays. We don't have delays. We don't have delays. You can take this to the bank. People go. As a matter of fact, railway operations across the world are in high esteem because of their strict adherence to timing. I just gave you the time that the train from Aba will leave Port Harcourt.
Yeah.
And I looked at time, I told you the train was entering Aba. I was not there, but I knew that it must enter Aba by this time. If it enters by 1 minute late, the driver will get queried. He enters 1 minute earlier, he will get queried. There are station timings for train operation.
When you get to the station, the number
There is a time it should take you from Aba to Concom, from Port Harcourt to LLM1, allotted time. From LLM1 to Soso, there is a time. And as this, if I open the platform, as the train is departing the station, the officers will post the time it arrived, the time it departed. As it's entering the other station, they are writing it, so delays, it hardly happens with the Nigeria Railway Corporation. Train operations, we are following the British standard.
Okay, do you have digital ticketing system? And are there ticketing racketeering?
We have digital ticketing system, especially between Lagos and Ibadan. People book online. Abuja, Kaduna, bookings are done online. Don't worry about the bookings are done online. It's just because there's still work here.
Okay.
We have not digitized ticketing in this corridor. So there's, of course, we used to have issues of ticket racketeering, but the MD and his team had to, re-strategize into double ticketing, double check-ins, and this has reasonably eliminated issue of ticket racketeering. And if you're a staff and you are caught, you just happily go in for it.
Okay. Many governors, including our own state government, talking about intra-city mass transit systems. And so that takes me to whether the Eastern Rail Corridor will feature localized intra-city mass transit systems within major urban cities like Enugu, Port Harcourt, Aba to ease local commuting congestion. Um, is that possible? Or is there any way you think the General Rail Corporation could actually partner with the Southeast Development Commission for an internal rail system? Or is it just you're doing your thing alone?
You know, I would like to go back to the new administration we have in the Nigerian Railway Corporation today, because the MD came in with some initiatives, one of which is what he called railing with the states. As a matter of fact, he started that before state government started to key in into that arrangement, where the corporation is available to liaise with governors with their initiatives. We look at their programs, we look at their plans, we look at how we can integrate them, we look at how we can give them. There's another one he called track access, whether we can give them the track, they get their materials, run on it. There's so many programs, So in a nutshell, the Nigerian Railway Corporation collaborates with states. There's discussion with Abia, there's discussion with Enugu State, there's discussion with Plateau State, and other states. So that opening is there. There was one more thing you talked about. Southeast Development Commission.
Yes.
I can tell you that the Southeast Development Commission was in Lagos. They had a meeting with the managing director of the Nigerian Rail Corporation where issues that you raised were discussed and areas of collaboration were sought. I also know that the MD also had a meeting with Southwest Development Commission. So that integration, that collaboration is ongoing. And we are hopeful that not a long time from now, things will change for the better.
It's in the pipeline.
It is actually in the pipeline.
Well, I hope the other data guys won't go over the pipeline.
They don't do that anymore.
Okay, we have two more issues before we call this a day. And this is right of way. There are disputes virtually along these corridors. There are some lease negotiations. There are private entities that over time, or state government, that have some form of booklet right of way, within the corridors. So, how are you managing disputes? Because you see, there's no way you run your rail from Port Harcourt to Enugu, passing through community without having one or two disputes. What dispute mechanisms do you have in place to manage some of these conflicts, especially those that have to do right of way?
Okay, like I said earlier, the railways may be described as the institution that came first across the country. And the colonial masters knew that train operations demand space. Space of operations, space of accommodation, space of construction, space of a lot of things. And that was why, as they were moving across the country, they were acquiring properties. I may not know if it is an exaggeration to say that half of Enugu is owned by Nigerian Railway Corporation.
They were greedy at that time. They were very greedy at that time.
With these acquisitions and over the years, considering the challenges we had, we began to see encroachments where some state governments will just get into the properties and confiscate them. And Railway looked at it and said, no, we can't let this happen. The management of Nigerian Railway Corporation, in their wisdom, established what is called the Railway Property Management Company Limited. Staff that are employed there are professional estate valuers, depending on your cost that must be related to land. What they do is that instead of having these issues, what Property Management Company Limited is doing now is that they created processes of acquisition. The first one they call squatter permit, in which He can give you that permit, you do a little whatever you want to do there, but know that that is going out anytime it is needed without notice. And then there's what we call TOL, temporary occupation license, depending on what you want to do and the location that can be given to you. And then we have what we call the outright lease. Those leases, you want to, a space in Nigeria Railway Corporation, come to property management company, they discuss with you and then present the facts before you. And then you do the documentation, and the leases will happen over a period of time which is renewable. You understand? You know Enugu now. Somebody actually reached out to me this morning and said, which railway? Again, another person say the railway that Enugu Peter Mbah has taken, and is building. I said, well, a lot of people are operating out of ignorance. I explained to him. He said he was going to be listening. That large space was owned by the Nigerian Railway Corporation. The structures, the building, the properties, the businesses, they were our tenants paying. But of course, you know that government will always the governments are once more. They look at situations, they look at their plans and programs, and issues for the overriding public interest. That is, the people may not know that that property was acquired through lease by Enugu State government. You understand? They applied, but now and there is a size of land that is even beyond Nigeria Railway Corporation. People are not aware that the Minister for Transportation actually came to Enugu, followed through all those processes. People may not know that Ebano Housing at Otiba, that property is owned by Nigeria Railway Corporation.
I know.
So people will not know that stadium owned by in fact, if you stand at Holy Ghost Cathedral, from Ogwiro to Okpara Avenue to the end of Enugu, is owned by Nigeria Railway Corporation. But instead of allowing those properties to lie waste, we are leasing it out to people that are paying annual grand rent for a lot of services for the federal government.
So you guys are making a hell of money out of that.
Well, it's going straight into the TSA account. So the government decides based on priority the project to apply which form.
Okay, before I let you go, 2 3 more questions. One is you're a media guru, because that is not if you are not one, you won't be occupying the position you're occupying as the district public relations officer. And so that comes to how are the corporation and the office making use of traditional and new media platforms to continuously engage stakeholders about the progress of the Eastern Line revival. Because it is important. Like people asking you which railway. It feels like they want to know more. And I know what you're doing now is part of it, but how much more do you intend to do using both traditional and new media? Because it's critical.
Very, very critical, because if you don't talk about it, people are, on the streets giving out the wrong information. For the Nigerian Railway Corporation, our effort is geared towards ensuring that operations resume. While we are also working towards that operations resumption, we are also trying on our approaches. We're careful talking about this. It takes an understanding mind. It takes a reasonable mind to understand what we are saying. A lot of people will tell you, this guy, what is he talking? He's doing his job, man. He's just talking. But the realities are on ground. The engagement such as this is one of them. Thank you. A few weeks ago we were at Afia TV.
Yes, I watched that.
And I want to plead with the media, especially media from these parts of the country. Understand that my MD will say that he just managed to bring out the Nigerian Railway Corporation from coma. They've been on coma for a very long time. And somebody that is in coma or just convalescing will not have a lot of strength. You help the person to talk, like you're helping us to talk, giving us the platform, and other media stations. Because if we have the platforms to talk about it, there are a lot of issues begging the attention of the federal government. The more you press, the more it is considered that the thing is holding you so tight. But if you don't talk, attention will be shifted to those that are talking more. So we are taking advantage of this platform to enlighten people and tell them that the train is not dead. Let them be patient. The train will come back.
The train is not dead, it will come back. And projection, next 5 to 10 years, where do you see the Eastern Corridor?
Next 5 to 10 years.
Yes. Where do you see the Eastern Corridor?
I see the Eastern Corridor to be a beehive of activity. I see the Eastern Corridor resume with full force. Former Minister for Power, Professor Chinedu Nego, had said that if Nigerian Railway Corporation is fully restored, it has the capacity to employ greater percentage of engineering graduates in Nigeria. But people don't know that the Nigerian Railway Corporation will have everything. It is a government, it is a community of its own. Nigerian Railway Corporation, we have the civil engineering, we have the mechanical engineering, we have the if I break down the department, we have the clinicals, we have the clinics, the hospital. We have everything. There is nothing we get from outside. Nothing. Civil engineering, there is breakage anywhere, you just write, your department will write. They will come and fix it. The mechanical department is broken into mechanical running, those that are in charge of the rolling stock. We have the mechanical works, they fix the electricals and some technical parts. We have the diesel mechanical, where they fix the locomotive engine. And when you come there, these are technologies you don't buy in the market. You can't even, in fact, it's recently we were talking about Transport University in Zaria. Yes. These are knowledge that you can only get from the Nigerian Railway Corporation. So I see a future where the issue of train operations will be as comprehensive as it should be. You come to that under mechanical works, we have what we call the foundry engineering section, where actually I started. Foundry engineering section, where we have cupola furnace, where cast iron is melted. When you come there, when we are casting in those years, you think you're in the moon. Because we get cast iron, we have limestone, which serves as flux, removal of impurity from the gas, and we use coke, generated from coal as fuel. These are poured into the cupola furnace, and it's lit. It burns for over 100 degrees. It melts the metal. They are poured out through the spout, and then they are moved into the die molds. Basically, what we do there was the production of the brake blocks, and the brake blocks are to the train what brake parts are to our cars. Produce them, and other spare parts. Companies from Port Harcourt, from Lagos, they come to Enugu with their spare parts, and then we mold them on the floor, and then pour the liquid metal, which produces the material that they sort. And they are taken to mechanical, where they are filtered, cleaned, and packaged. So the future is that is where the future is returning to.
You just ruled like an engineer. I'm going to reconcile mass communication and this engineering. This is the engineering topic.
It's experiential knowledge.
Okay, experiential knowledge. Okay, Dr. Novo, I want you to look straight to Nigerians, look straight to the camera, and talk to Nigerians. What message do you have for Nigerians concerning the revival of the Eastern Rail Corridor? Your final message to Nigerians.
My final message to Nigerians on this program is a message of hope, is a message of commitment, is a message of resilience. When you particularly talk about the Eastern District of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, we are talking about the eastern part of the country, people that are known for commerce, people that are known to be resilient. And we want to encourage you, keep up the hope, keep up the trust. Anyhow you can help the Nigerian Railway Corporation in your corner, through the protection of our facilities, through whatever support you can, through whatever connections you have. Please don't let that hope die. Keep on pressing. I assure you, God keeping us alive, we're going to see that future where the tracks will hear the rollings of the wheels of the train, and the communities will hear the noises, the sounds of the whistling of the locomotive engines. It will happen again in the East and in Nigeria, as it's happening in other places.
That's a very, very prophetic one, and then that's the way I think we can leave this conversation this morning. But before then, very distinguished viewers, I want to thank you for being part of this program. You've heard it directly from the Nigerian Railway Corporation Corporation, District Public Relations Officer. The revival of the Eastern Rail Corridor represents modern transportation. It symbolizes economic recovery, regional integration, job creation, and renewed national hope. Of course, you know. So, and I want to thank our guests, Dr. I prefer to call him Onyedika G. Stanley Onobo, PhD. You know, there are people asking this many doctors. They didn't know what we went through to have a
No,
PhD.
they won't understand. They won't understand.
So I want to thank him for finding time to be here, and I'm sure you heard him. I learned a lot personally myself about the operations of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, and from all accounts, if it gets functional, I'm sure it will reduce unemployment by
Seriously,
more than 50%.
I agree with you.
It's functional nationally. To reduce unemployment. They say they have the hospital, they have virtually everything.
Everything.
So thank you for sharing your valuable insight with us today. It's been a great day. So thank you for watching Beyond the Headlines on Freedom Square TV. Join us same time tomorrow for yet another interesting edition. Meanwhile, stay informed, stay connected, and do have a lovely day ahead of you. Thank you. Bye.